Yeah, this is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in the student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to ShowX Live with your favorite Scotsman Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado.
Hey, wait a second. I'm on the show too, and I don't get any billing at all? Well, I know how to solve this. Soldater, Fremad, March!
And now Todd gets 90% of the billing.
All the billing.
You're listening to Show X
gets
with our favorite Scotsman Ken, our child of the corn Wayne, currently living in Colorado, and Todd, who now has an army of angry Norwegians at his back. Enjoy the show!
Hey, good thing to kick things off. And to start things off, just because it was mentioned at the beginning of the show in a way, do the whole like...
LMFAO! Noob! With 27 exclamation points in back of it. That's right. That's how smart I am.
It's the RP show!
Hey everybody, it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday. We're already up to March 7th, 2021. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about RP. And this is kind of this overall discussion about how do you play your games? This came out as a bit of a conversation we were having during the week about whether you get into your games or just play the games themselves. And so we're going to be talking a bit about how you get into the game. Todd?
I'm prepared.
I see.
You are not prepared.
You make me want to look around for like equal items. Like, what can I do to be ready?
I do not have a wizard hat, but I have a foam battle axe.
Todd roleplays so hard that he actually like needs physical items to roleplay in his video games.
That's correct.
Yeah, when I play my FPSs, right, I'm here full on like.
I brought a battle axe. I brought a battle axe to a gunfight.
This is all I have.
Is that
much more menacing.
Oh, you're showing weapons on screen.
Whoa, we're gonna get in trouble for that one.
Tool. It's a tool.
It's a tool. There you go.
Doctor, Professor, Rear Admiral, Gun Runner.
Yeah, I do have the Master Sword like back over the shoulder, hanging on the wall,
I see that.
and the Breath of the Wild shield. So, like I can mount up.
This is actually Consumer Electronics Show swag from 10 years ago.
Dude, that's awesome.
AikenLabs.com. Multi-axis motion capture anywhere.
Oh man!
And your first act is free.
That's great. That's great. Now, so we're going to be talking, like I said, about some RP, trying to decide if I should get into emails or not right off the top, since Iona said he had to walk away, so I kind of wanted him to be here for his own email. So maybe let's
do them after the break.
We'll wait for the break on that.
Have a fuller break, you know?
Yep, that'll work. All right, so the premise of today's show for everybody out there is talking about basically all those games where you get to take on the role of a character in the game. And the question about how much do you get into that role? Do you just jump into a game and play it with the mechanics involved, the story being thrown at you as just kind of a somewhat active level of entertainment? Or do you go steps beyond that and you actually like look at the story being told, the character, who that character is in the game, whether it's one you've created yourself or one presented for you to play as, and do you take the time to really think about the decisions that the character in game would make separate or different from like perhaps the decisions you yourself would make put in that situation? And so it's kind of that discussion, that idea, that wonder of what it means to role play. And because games arguably are some of the most interactive forms of entertainment available, when experiencing stories being told to you or gameplay mechanics and things like that are fun, but what about it do we each take away in the way we play our games? Part of this conversation came up because for me personally, just to lead things off, I realized that I have such a myopic view of how I play video games. If it's simply, there's one thing. There's the simple games that are consoles or platformers, sorry. Things like Mario or Rayman or whatever kind of games where it's simply an activity you are doing. or like fighter games and stuff like that, right? Where I'm just trying to win the match using the skill set that whatever avatar character it is I'm playing might have at the time. And those are very straightforward, right? I personally rarely think heavily about the story involved in them. I've been impressed when like the Mortal Kombat series went forward and actually added story elements. I think Mortal Kombat 10 had a legit, be it a fighter, tie events together to put you into, instead of just the old classic ladder mode, a story to be told. And so it was like, great, thank you for the additional story. I'm still just beating people up. But in more in-depth games, things like, for me, the Bethesda series, the Skyrims and Oblivions, like that whole series, the Fallout series and stuff like that, where you're really given the opportunity to take on the role of that lead character, that it's almost like an extension of yourself being pushed into that world. You know, it's kind of like, how do you play that? And for me, almost every instance, and I've hinted at this before in shows, I tend to create a character, an avatar that looks somewhat like me, that I can relate to because, oh yeah, see, this is me projecting myself into the game world. And therefore, when I play the game, I almost always play making decisions like I would in real life, with perhaps a bit of a stretch. Like, I've never been in that situation, so I don't know if I would actually, you know, kill this person to save that one. But it seems like the right decision in this case, so hey, right? And so that's kind of how
really
I go in.
That's a really interesting point, Wayne, because I know that I'm always tempted. I used to always do the physical looks as kind of like me, or at least aspects of me. Like if I had the choice between like skin tones, I would generally choose ones that I'm most familiar with, which are my own, right? When you see your
do they go that light on the palette?
With gender, right? What was that? What did you just say? I didn't hear that.
He has to download a special Scandinavian skin pigments add-on.
Are you suggesting like, to get like the Snow White pack?
There's pork pink. There's grocery store ground beef pink, and then there's Scotland pink.
Hey, I jokingly say that with, at the same time, the challenge of me finding a tone of skin I appreciate is significant, because it tends to be, in general terms, when you have character creation, you have a handful of Caucasian skin tones, levels of like fairly pale to somewhat I've seen the sun, to then skipping into like a Asian theme or more Oriental or Asian style or coloring of skin that has a certain pigment or tone to it, to maybe something in between, but more likely straight to like fairly dark black character, if even represented. And the in-between tends to be so minor. They keep getting better, but holy cow, the chance of finding like my skin tone in the game has been such a challenge.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, like, I said in the chat, I went by the 255, 255, 255 skin pack.
Turn everything to max.
Like, yeah. Actually, I used to always do that. I used to always try to go fairly close to my actual skin color, so kind of pink, I guess. But now I just go with what I like to look at, and that can be ranging from like an orc who's super muscly and kicks ass, all the way to like I don't know, a slim priestess who, you know, is actually wearing nice clothing and is kind of pretty to look at. It depends what I want from the game and what kind of game I'm playing and what kind of play style I'm playing. So I wouldn't call it. It depends what you define as RP, right? I mean, like, I don't really walk around saying "elude guide you" or anything. I don't do that. But although I actually recently I got accused of being an RPer, because I have so in World of Warcraft I've got like 30 different characters, right? I just love having alts of various different kinds, right? Like, I used to only have one class each, and that's it. But now I have multiple of the same class, just so I can have some who specialize in different stuff, right? And I recently I decided to get this add-on, which would change it so that whenever I talk in guild chat or in raid chat, it puts my real name at the start. So it says, you know, brackets Ken brackets. Just because people get really confused in guild and stuff when there's like 45 different character names that all just mean Ken, right? Like it's unnecessary. So I thought that was a useful thing to have. But then I went to a battleground this week and I was just screwing around doing some PvP, and I said something in chat calling somebody a moron or something, as you do. And somebody was like, "Ken, who's Ken? And somebody responded, oh, he's on Moonguard, so it's an RP thing. And I was like, what? I'm not RP. It's literally the opposite. All you guys are RPing because you're using fantasy names. I'm using a real name. I'm the only one not RPing here. Thank you very much.
Hey Ken, could you say that the little tag, night elf tag phrase that you said again?
Alunanore Felinar.
Yeah. No, just see, there it is. Now, if you said that more in a slightly more sultry voice, like we're gonna do we double our output?
We double our audience.
Yep. Far more attachment rate hearing this.
Some like elf ears.
Oh gosh.
Just say it.
Okay, that's it. We're gonna do a show one day, guys. It's gonna be all filters and silly costumes and totally playing the part of like it's gonna be cat ears, collars, and like
One of the things about Final Fantasy XIV that I appreciated is that the helmet construction for my anime waifu had built-in areas for ears to go.
Makes sense, you know.
Right? So,
they got to hear too.
I mean, comfort first, right? Protection second. Like, I want to be the guy that customizes the ear holes.
What's up, Wayne?
Wade, I need you to hit the thing again.
What's wrong, Wayne?
Wait, I think I got it. Wait, no, I got this one. Wait, I got one for it.
Oh my God. Why?
Oh boy.
There's a reason my wife is called Kitten Feature. She likes
Leo, no, we are not on Final Fantasy XIV now. We were trying Final Fantasy XIV as a potential alternative to World of Warcraft because the Mistress of Giggles and I were trying to find a game that we could play together at the same time, and we got Ionis in on it too, so he was going to come with us, and we were going to form 3 people of a 4-person group to do the instancing in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I went off on this thing talking about how Final Fantasy XIV had asked the question, what's the annoying crap in WoW, and fixed it. They forgot one.
Uh-oh.
And it's a deal breaker.
Ooh.
Here's why. In World of Warcraft, I do not need the quests for Ragefire Chasm instance in order to go into the Ragefire Chasm instance. But if I want to go into the first instance dungeon in Final Fantasy XIV, damn right you better have that quest in order to unlock the dungeon, and you can't even suck a party member into the dungeon.
Ooh.
It will say that you do not qualify. Or a member of your party does not qualify. Deal breaker.
Barrier to entry.
So, here's what we're going to do. I talked to the Mistress of Giggles, who doesn't have any particular interest in playing MMOs anymore in general, and tried Final Fantasy XIV as a sacrifice to me. So that we could try and play something long duration together. So, I am going to be playing World of Warcraft Classic. And I am going to try to put together, I would like to put together 5 people on the EU side that would be willing to get together on a fairly regular schedule, once, maybe twice a week, to do the instancing. Start at the beginning, cool. Ragefire, Wailing Caverns, the werewolf one, etc., etc., etc. And all the way up. And with a 5-man, we can do everything. And in fact, I think when we get close to level 60, if we skip Strat and Skullomance and do Dire Maul first and sort of farm that for gear, if we go into, we will be able to 5-man Skolo and Strat with, Shadowfang. Thanks, Leo. We should be able to 5-man Skolo and Strat with level 60s with Dire Maul gear, is what I'm thinking. So anyway, that is, as of right now, the plan. Details to come. There were some problems this morning or today.
For those who want to catch it,
a WoW Classic EU thing. So I may have to pick your brain, Ken, later.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
for those
I've never tried Classic, but I can maybe talk about current stuff.
Oh no, it's nothing about that. For those who are curious, check the pre-show before it gets edited in post.
I got a little ranty during the pre-show. In any event,
Oh.
So to the topic at hand. I did with my Final Fantasy XIV character the same thing I do with all my RPG characters. By the way, including World of Warcraft. I get to the character select screen. I hit random. I pick a gender, usually by coin flip, and then I hit randomize a bunch of times until I go, that's interesting. And then I go with it.
So that's just the looks, though. That's not like class and race or anything.
No, just the looks.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
so
I mean, like the looks. You don't really look at your own character except from behind,
well,
I guess.
It depends on the game, right? And there's the comment that was made earlier. I think it was from Legend that I've heard many times saying that, quote, if I'm going to stare at an ass for 50 plus hours, it might as well be an attractive one, right? And I've heard that commented many times. My cousin mentioned it back in the day, Hostel and stuff like that. It was something that was always curious to me because it was always a foreign. But that's because I don't ever concentrate on my character. I'm looking at the world beyond. And so it never really registered to me that my character need to look a certain way. Because I'm also the guy who's the last one to put on matching gear that looks in a certain way. It was all about the next thing that drops stat-wise. Sure, if it's a fisherman's helmet or a hat or a fishing pole as a weapon.
Right? Well, it's in the era of transmogrification in both WoW and Diablo and other things, right? So
I don't even bother. That's the thing. That's too much effort for me to worry about what he looks like. I'm just like, what's the next piece? Let's keep playing. Because my avatar doesn't matter.
To be fair, when I did find in Final Fantasy XIV a pale yellow helmet that did not go with the rest of the gear, so I looked like a yellow stoplight. I actually took the time, because one of the things you get in Crest rewards is dyes. And so I took the time and found a dye to make the helmet go with the rest of this iron or bronze armor that I'm wearing. That was all sort of grays and browns and greens. And then I had this blaze yellow helmet. It's just like... Like, I realize my job is to take aggro, but I don't think I need to do it that bad.
I think that's one of the things that's really missing in WoW is dyes, because you just have to collect all the... Like, there might be a piece of armor that has 6 different color types, but you need to get that to drop each time. You need to collect them all if you want to, and that's a pain in the butt, you know that?
It is.
And even then, that's only assuming that's actually available. Not all.
I will say this, though, and this is going back a mighty long time, but... I think they did a really good job with Blizzard. Did a really good job with the sets, because even the Dungeon Blue set or Tier 0 set, when you finally assembled the whole thing, looked badass.
In general, yeah, their art department was great, and there are some legendary looking things that are very meaningfully like sets of armor and stuff.
That said, why you would put Spirit as a stat on a set of Rogue Bracers?
It's so that Druid healers could also use it, I guess. I don't know.
Let's be a little bit charitable. Like, World of Warcraft did a lot of discovery for a lot of companies that didn't bother to learn any lessons from the path that World of Warcraft blazed. So I am kind of giving them a hard time. But at the same time, right, grading on a curve, they were, after EverQuest, they were first. and which is really stupid now that I think about it. After EverQuest, they were first. They were sort of the trailblazers in all of this. Like, I didn't know what MMOs were until I started playing World of Warcraft, and then I heard about EverQuest and EverQuest 2.
Gotcha.
So, when it comes to gear, I'm with you, Wayne. Like, stats is king until you make max levels, and then you can sort of combo meal stats with looks. It's form and function.
It is something about the looks piece that is always odd to me. Like, because I always try to make character look like me, right? It took away the creativity, I guess, of potentially encompassing the role of something new and different and trying to play the game as something that is not me. And that's just not ever been a way I've looked at it. I have definitely had friends who've expressed to me that they play the game a certain way. And it is, to perhaps the detriment of the game, right? Our buddy Sir Spencer loves to play games as ninja-like as possible, and therefore will focus on armor sets, skills, and gameplay that all kind of fit that place, or his imagining his view of what that kind of character is, because he just thinks that Japanese culture and ninja are so damn cool that any game he can, I can guarantee if we jump into like an MMO with all these different roles and classes, I know which character he's picking, right? I can look. We did this when picked up. Oh gosh, it's one of the other MMOs out there that's fairly pretty, but jumped on it for a moment because it was free and everybody else was touching it. And I read through a bunch of classes, and I was like, well, this one sounds interesting to me as well. Thinking like samurai or ninja or something. Yeah, unit's right. Black Desert. And with Black Desert, and I looked and I was like, I know Sir Spencer is picking this role. And we got on and talked, and sure enough, he's like, oh, I'm playing this. I was like, yes, you are. And
which is weird because 15 years ago he played the healer.
Right? But I don't know. Well, it might have just been that class didn't exist in WoW, right? That something that matched his view at the time. Before he went like Shadow Priest.
Stealth character is?
Yeah, well, not just a stealth character, specifically like ninja. And it's not just the stealth aspect. He likes the Japanese look. He likes the sword play. He likes all of the additional pieces. So you find the character that has the most of that, and he'll likely gravitate towards it. And he'll play it that way. He did that in Warframe as well. He loved Warframe because he was like, it's like Space Ninja. And so it's interesting to me because
what do you guys like to do for when you're playing? You're choosing your classes in a game. Like, do you go for a specific one every time, or do you like to mix it up?
No,
it depends on the game.
I know that I have probably never played a healer. I don't think I've ever played a true healer.
Never.
No, the closest I have ever played to taking on a healer role is in Overwatch and playing like Zenyatta and such, because he's a DPS healer, and a couple of those. But I can't play Mercy to save my life. And so I don't think I've ever taken on a true support role in that sense. I've almost always been DPS in the classic like WoW level of things, because I'm so used to playing games where I'm shooting and killing things that to worry about how I'm buffing others is like, what? It's such a foreign concept to me. And so I don't play that way.
I really enjoy support roles, both healing and general support. Even in League of Legends, I used to really enjoy playing support, but I can mix and match easily. Like I tend to fly around different classes. What are you showing us, Todd?
Yeah, so in this thing, I always end up as the same character.
In Skyrim?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's funny, is in a way I do too, but for me it was always because the game mechanics of it. And it's funny, I say that, and at the same time, it's like everybody says the same thing to me when I've heard it, which is basically that stealth archer wins.
Yeah.
Like every time, or is the thing, right? Yeah. So I've resulted in that so many times.
Yeah, well, and Skyrim in particular is even worse. Like I always go the same route too. Always. Every time. Like I can even sit down and in fact I don't even think I have Skyrim installed anymore. Because I just haven't
versions installed like I do.
I just haven't touched it. Well, in theory I was gonna install World of Warcraft today. But that did not happen. Yeah, I don't think I have Skyrim. Yeah, I don't have it installed on my PC anymore. But I would sit down, I would start that game, sit down and go, I'm going to play this different. Like I'm going to play as an orc that uses two-handed weapons, is a blacksmith, and does heavy armor. That's what I'm going to do. Right?
That's a solid choice.
Okay. Like all the mechanics, it makes sense. I know what to do. I have the collector's edition guide that could lead me through to do that successfully step by step. What do? I'm the big two-handed weapon orc of total devastation for the tutorial. I get out of the tutorial, I go to the first area. It's like, oh, that's right, melee combat sucks. Grab a bow. Grab a bow. Grab a bow. Go to the Thieves Guild. Become a Nightingale.
Yep.
Like why?
Get all the bonuses.
Why futz around? Like this is gonna be way more fun.
Stealth, one shot, everything in the head.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did the same thing. I'm gonna play a mage. I'm gonna be Destro Mage. Like I'm gonna throw lightning and it's gonna be great. Because I'm going to use it with both hands. And I'm going to yell, power! Unlimited power! Like every time I kill something. And I do that for about half of the first... the first barrow that you go into. Like in the first town. And then it's just like, nope, this is dumb. Give me a bow and arrow.
Well, and so that sounds like an interesting piece, right? That's... because it sounds like you're reacting to like the game play available. Because for me, I tried to do the similar thing in Skyrim, and I kept hearing all the stuff about like magic play and stuff, and I like the idea of the dual wield. Because for me, it was always a hybrid: archer, self heal. Like magic was always self heal,
yeah,
or like armor, or it was always like defensive stuff and never like attack stuff. So I purposely made a character to try and go magic, and kind of succeeded. But the only way I could get it to really stick is I had to install the massive mods for magic that balance it so that it actually scales appropriately.
Skyrim, yeah.
Well, in Skyrim specifically, right? But it gets me because I still, like, I'm trying to think of other games. You know, Cyberpunk, I made a character that looks like me. And I mostly make not completely degenerate, ways of responding to characters and interacting with them. Like, I try to be nice. And there's, like, one character you might have run into. I'm sure you ran into at one point, Todd. It's the guy that like pimped out one of the girls who got turned into a cyber doll, and is just like the most skeezy character you could ever run into. Yes. And the girl that you're already kind of interested in is like, just pop this guy now. Let's just beat his ass. And I tried through like interrogation point, like multiple of just like, nah, let's talk to him. Nah, let's talk to him. Nah, let's talk to him. And then finally, even I got fed up with how sleazy he was, and before it absolutely broke off, was like, nope, just punch him out. And I just, boom, hit him because I was like, this dirtbag.
What's the quote about a good man's fury?
Yeah, right.
So it's weird. Like I said, for my instance, I'm very curious, though, for both of you guys and those in our chat about the idea, because I've heard it from others, and I've seen it with like Sir Spencer and stuff, but even more so, I've seen it even expanded further, and I'll talk about an example I've seen elsewhere, but of actually throwing yourself into a character that it is either picking the role of how you're going to play the game, or legitimately, and I've heard some people talk about this even in games like Mass Effect that have a lot of story-driven elements and choices that are impactful to how the game plays out, that they have sometimes played it from the perspective of like, well, this character, I believe, would make a decision like this. Not that they themselves were saying, this is how I would react to this situation, but more so from the idea that this character is kind of sassy and this and that. They're not going to take any snack or anything from this kind of person, so they're going to rebel. They're going to probably be quick to anger. And so they play the game that way. And I always found that to be kind of fascinating to me, because it's not a way I've been able to like experience it. Like I can't do that, or I have not thought to do that or been able to hold myself to it. Like for me, I am the character, I am the experience, and so these are people I know who talk about like almost like they literally have this separate character walking around in front of them that they're like, oh, look at that character. That character would do this, so I'm going to allow that character to experience the world in that way.
Oh, before we answer, Wayne, can I ask you how you do it in D&D? Do you only play yourself in like D&D when you're? That's more pure role play, right?
Yep.
Or do you or LARPing or anything similar? Or do you actually try to play the character that you've created or embodying?
Here's my challenge. In all of my years having been exposed to RPing in the form of like D&D and other paper, like tabletop gaming and such, I have barely had that experience. Like I grew up in the time frame to have really hit it, but I can only count to a handful of times that I've ever even tried to play, and most of those times have been like a day's experience. I one time went to a LARP and tried to play the character I had created. And it was such a foreign concept to me. I think I did okay, but it was all introductory.
What about acting? Have you ever done any acting?
Nope. And so okay. I've never really done acting. I've thrown myself, my acting career is so limited that I can remember the one time I ever had like a hint of a feeling of what it might be like to act. And that was at a church function when I was in middle school, that we had practiced a little like skit of doing something, whatever. And I went on stage and I thought I killed it because I kind of walked off stage like, that was kind of fun. And that was it. I was never in drama class. I never did stage presentations. And so it's always been this thing I've observed but not experienced. And so now with my D&D that I do every Thursday or every other right now, Thursday, I am still at a state where I can openly say I'm trying to RP for the first time. Like that conscious effort. Like I tried it a little bit with that one day of LARPing. I'd kind of like to go back, but everything shut down and things. And in the D&D role, I'm playing a character called Callus. I need to remember his last name. But he's a halfling ranger. And like his flaws or characteristics that turn into like how I play him is that he's soft-spoken and a bit of a ponderous speech pattern. And so the way when I speak as Callus, I'm kind of like, hey, everyone, I've been hearing what we're talking about. I think that maybe we should, I don't know, look for traps here. Like I'm trying to make it like if you aren't paying attention or if you're talking over, you might miss him. And that if you actually stop to listen to him, you have to like have patience for him to actually get something out.
So a halfling ent.
Yes, right. And the challenge is like as a group.
Or any Wheel of Time fans out there in Ogier.
Yes.
Yes. So it's a thing that I'm playing with. And I think I may have some latent desire, skills, or whatever to do it, but I've just never practiced it. And so it doesn't come natural for me to play a role. It just doesn't. Now, but back at you guys, have you had experiences like that?
Kinda. Like there's the D&D I played a mentally struggling dwarf warrior who was the only person, like the storyline for this character was so great. So eventually in the storyline we found these angels that were encased in ice. And I was the only one who hadn't been judged by these angels. So the angels were looking at everybody in the party but me. And they were and they were also reacting hostile to everybody in the party but me. But I'm an idiot, right? So I'm trying to talk to the angels and understand why they hate us so much, and I couldn't get it because I'm an idiot, because I'm slow, right? So I prayed to my god, and these angels were tied to the god of magic, and all the other gods in the pantheon hate the god of magic, so they were just like, no. Kill those. Like I got a good roll in my praying, my religion check or whatever. Like I
Gotcha.
passed my religion check, so my God told me like, no, F them. It's like, okay, we'll kill the angels, right? So we killed the angels. I don't know any better, right? These are angels, and my God told me to kill them. So I don't know any better. So I pulled out my portable forge, and we smelted their hides into magical ingots that we
Nice,
then
that's
trade
cool.
that we then traded to Xanathar. I got like a +3 Vorpal sword out of it,
Nice.
right? And it's
Yeah.
just like so.
It sounds like
so
a win-win to me. I mean,
Well, yeah, until again, like I'm at the front, I'm the fighter. So I've got this sword that can now one-shot things. And I'm in front because I also have a shield, and I have this gigantic AC because I'm also a dwarf. And you know, we run into something, and I don't know any better, and it attacks me, like throws fire at me, so I cut its head off.
So you're saying that the opportunity to deal with situations in a less violent fashion were significantly reduced after that
Never
point.
occurred to that character. Like my God just said, yeah, you should smite some fools. And I was just like, okay, tell me when to stop, God.
yes, sir.
Slice.
That's wonderful. But that's cool.
That campaign ended with a zombie apocalypse, by the way. And
Like everyone you had killed came back?
And so we ended up killing the God of Magic.
Oh, snap.
You killed your own god.
Not my God. My God was the dwarf god, the god of craftsmanship.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
So my God told me to kill the angels of the God of Magic, and then we ended up going and killing the God of Magic. So the God of Magic is dead. Magic doesn't work anymore. And by the way, there are all these diseases that turn people into undead that were only held in check because of magic. The zombie apocalypse. So the only other interaction with my God that I had is when I, by myself, we're setting up these defenses and we're gonna lose because it's like the last session of the campaign, right? So everybody's setting up these defenses, and we've got siege, catapults and whatnot, and like we've gathered the last bastions of humanity at a place that we ended up getting called for Pete's sake. And so it this epic battle, and all of a sudden my character breaks ranks, starts swimming out into the undead, chopping people down. Somebody is like calling at me to come back into the line. I just put my sword into the ground, turn around while they're undead all around me, and just say, no, like I prayed to my God, and my God told me that I had to kill these angels. And because I killed these angels, we had to kill the God of magic. And I don't want to do this anymore. And so I just waded in and started hacking undead. So my God heard this, and I got to go to Craftsman God Heaven.
Nice.
At the end. Like I died the death, and
were rewarded.
It went to Dwarf
God.
Heaven. Yeah, I went to Dwarf
awesome.
Heaven and got to see my sword getting forged or smith in Dwarf Heaven. So it was pretty it was a fitting end, warrior's end to that idiot dwarf.
Nice. Well, but that's a great example, right? You were playing the character and actually going into situations based on what that character would do. And that is novel and cool to me. And novel in the sense that I have not experienced it. Like, still trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah. I got another example, the idiot savant character in Fallout 4.
Of course, the classic.
With an intelligence of 1. Like, why do I need a 5-story tower in the middle of a town that can only add maximum support 20 people? and yet there it is. Like, here's the high rise. Like, it'll allow it, because every time I place floor, it's possible that I could get so much I could get so much more experienced at this world outside that I really don't know anything about. And even if I did, I can't interact with anything in anyway. Like all I can do is talk people down, charm people, and if we do have to fight, like hope that I can I hope that I can critical strike something. Right? I mean, that character is just
But again, that's a great example. That's a great example. And you've mentioned a few of those things, Todd, in the past, and we had mentioned it during the week, of like even how you have played specific, and this is kind of that question of what does it mean to RP, right? What does it mean to role play in a game? Because it's obvious when you're playing something like an MMO, RPing can be totally embodying that character. Playing as that character, making decisions based on what a character of that type and personality would do. But then it extends to other things, and one of the ones we had a conversation as you're talking about this stuff, Todd, is how you play EU, Europa Universalis, because you've talked about playing it in very specific, like, challenges, if you will, like self-imposed means of playing. I'm going to play as this race or this group or this origin, trying to accomplish it in this play style. And from hearing that, for me, that is another form of RP. Because that's like making a conscious decision to play the game in a very specific way for that experience, which is cool. Like, I'm like, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it in the context of RP. To me, it was always sort of a alternate universe or kind of historical sci-fi. Like, the basis of all great sci-fi is a what-if question.
Yes.
And so like one of the things is, well, what if after sacking Constantinople for the last time, like the leader of the Ottomans walked into the Hagia Sophia and went, "God, this Orthodox religion ain't so bad." Right? And the Ottoman Turks stopped being Muslim. Like, what if? What if that happened? What would the world look like? And it's not pretty. Ottomans in Rome, as it turns out. Or what if the Pope, realizing that the Holy Roman Empire is losing control of northern Italy, plus the defeats of the Hungarians and Poles and Lithuanians at the Battle of Varna in 1444, decides that the papacy is not just going to be a spiritual leader, but they are going to be warriors for God. And so every pope is now a battle pope, and they're all bad. And
I love that name, battle pope.
Conquer Europe as battle pope.
That's super cool. No, like I said, it's providing and I've heard it described this way. It's like wanting to tell a story beyond just the mechanics of the game. And I'm curious about that level of engagement and what it provides. Now, before I get into that piece, Ken, have you had those opportunities? Have you ever found yourself drawn to playing a game a certain way, under a certain constraint, or a character a certain way because you thought that's what that character would do, or that is a different way to play the game than is just what is presented as the engine and what you default to every time?
The only time I've actually successfully managed to play an evil character to the point where I stopped playing the game because I wasn't enjoying the game was SWTOR. And that was when I played a Sith character. And I didn't have a problem, like when the decisions came along, like you can choose to be Sith and then keep making good decisions if you want to. But it didn't make sense for me. Like I was like, I don't want to do the good decision. I'm Sith. I'm going to be very self-interested. That's my job. That's what I'm here to do.
This was during the Darth Revan time frame, right? So the Sith who wished he was a Jedi.
Yes.
Oh.
Right. So that's why from a lore perspective, part of the reason why that kind of stuff is allowed, right? Because there were still followers of Darth Revan on various planets that were trying to take a more light side or gray version of the Force. Rather than just the pure sort of digital good or evil.
The binary, yeah. And also Darth Revan, coolest character in all of Star Wars, by the way. I'm so sad it's not really canon anymore. Anyway, that was the only time I've really successfully managed to do that. That's because it made sense to be an evil character because I'm playing Sith. However, when I play Mass Effect, several times now, I've tried to be, and same with Fable, I've tried to be an evil character, but you're clearly supposed to be the hero, right? It feels like that's what you're supposed to do, and that's the gap in the story you should be fulfilling. And whenever I try to follow the evil storyline, I just feel like I'm like rejecting my own destiny. Like I keep getting pushed towards these roles where I save all of mankind or I fight off the great evil, and I'm trying to do it in an evil way. It just feels like I don't know, like you're rejecting destiny. It doesn't feel fun. I can't do it. I just don't enjoy so much. And generally speaking, okay, here's another example actually. World of Warcraft Death Knight campaign. When you first create a Death Knight from Wrath of the Lich King, your first task when you're raised is you serve the Lich King. And so for the first half an hour of gameplay, you're going around massacring civilians. In fact, Kate Peters did that very quest last night, and I had fun watching it again.
Yes.
And you're massacring civilians, and you're raising their spirits and them to zombies and stuff, and you're just doing stuff that's evil. You're mowing down women and children, right? And she was like, "This is great. I'm having a great time. I didn't know WoW was like this." And I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty much just that quest. The rest of it, you're always a hero. But that one quest is really fun. You're right."
Yep.
But it's because it's trying to paint the Death Knights as generally being part of the Scourge, and the Scourge is bad, right? So it's the same thing as SWTOR. If it makes sense for you to be evil, I don't have a problem doing it. I think that's fine. But when I'm supposed to be the good guy, I don't want to take the evil choices. I want to take the choices that help me. Even in things like Fable, where at the very end of the game, you can be like, do you want this awesome sword, or do you want to save humanity? I'll always save humanity, even if I really want the cool sword. But although admittedly, I did at one point make I think it was Fable 2, I did make the choice of saving the dog over saving humanity. But arguably, I think that's probably a greater good anyway.
So no, that's like I said, this is a really interesting conversation for me, and I'm very curious for our audience because we're getting some examples of Tabby, who sounds like Tabaxion's a very creative person. We know that. And how he's taken on the opportunity to challenge himself by playing characters in a certain way. And it sounds like, I'm guessing this is a D&D one where he says he's currently playing as a changeling that has little control over their looks. So once every morning has to roll to see what gender they basically, like what sex and race they are in the morning. Then he has to like play based on whatever that role is for the day to figure out how that would be, whew, that would take some work. Flexibility. I don't know if I could do it. That's pretty cool.
You'd have to have a pretty intimate knowledge of the game's mechanics.
Oh yeah, like to be able to jump all of those. That would take some work. Because I'm focusing on this primarily from a gaming perspective, right? And the games we play and such. I will give myself credit in one case. Thinking back to other things and taking roles, I do role play. And I think I do it fairly effectively. But the one place I do it is cosplay. And that is because I've absolutely embraced that when I take the time to look, feel, create a character, or try to represent myself as a character in cosplay, to try to embody that personality. I really do. So when I take to do Thomas Jefferson from Hamilton in the role played, I try to look at David's character. When I do Mr. Satan from Dragon Ball Z, one of my most entertaining characters to play, because I get to run around and think I'm the best thing there is there when everyone else in the universe is stronger, and react to other characters. And I try to stay in character anytime I run into others. And I say that good, bad, and ugly for anyone who's ever been around me when I've been in those characters, because I rarely break it. And they can get tired of hearing me go on and on and on in my character. Lantis brings up about when I was Brock from Pokemon and going to get jelly donuts from Tim Hortons and such, that I absolutely try to stay in character. And so that is one opportunity where it's a place I've been able to embrace. I feel like I do a decent enough job. And people have been surprised, because I always loved the joy that people would get on their face when I would play the character the way the character is meant to be. And again, my Mr. Satan was one of the best, where I'd have people yell at me from a car driving down the street while I was in character out the window like, "Satan, hey!" And me turn over and be like, "Hey, yeah, that's right, fans, right there. What's on, everybody? Yeah, that's what I like to see." and just really jumping into the character and enjoy. And they would light up seeing me do that, where they just be like, "Oh snap, he's being the guy, right? Not just looking the part." And so that is a place I've done it. But it's weird because I don't think I've embraced that almost anywhere else.
I like the fact that the dog is now role playing.
Ears and all.
I put the ears on top.
That's very interesting. That maybe this is therapy. I'm not sure. The dog is role playing something that the dog is supposed to hunt.
He loves wearing clothes. Like he's absolutely my wife's dog, because he
dresses
if
up.
you put on, I don't know, silly ears, if you put a diaper on him when he's being smelly or whatever, he loves it. He starts like strutting around like, "Look at me, I am fabulous." He loves it.
Fantastic.
That's
he's
wonderful.
quite intelligent. So I think he's learned that he gets more attention when he wears things. So when we put something on him, it's like, yes, bring it on.
Yes.
That makes sense.
I mean, the one thing I will say, like any of the EU4 campaigns that I've played that requires flipping religions to Orthodox, that's just cold hard math, right? Because the Orthodox religion is the best religion in the game. It just is, from a mechanics perspective. Like, it's just better. And it hasn't been reworked yet in the same way that Catholicism has been reworked. So it, without a rework, is better than being Catholic with the rework in it. So, it's just cold hard. That's just cold hard math. I talked about being flipping religion to Sikh, and being the only country in the world with the Sikh religion, so I could Deus Vult to everybody. Same kind of thing, just cold hard math. On that one, it's just there are so many mechanics that are designed to prevent you from being aggressive, that having a different religion than those people, as long as you're powerful enough to beat them militarily, that being Orthodox or being Sikh in this case, and being able to use the declare war on heretics or heathens with a massive reduction in aggressive expansion is just too good. It's just too good to not take. So
That's cool.
I mean, there's some decisions. It seems like there's some decisions that are gameplay made, like we talked about stealth arrows, right? There's some that perhaps are more story based, or role playing in the sense of trying to make it that makes it unique and fun. I have heard about all these different examples of people playing certain ways. It's like, granted, there's an achievement for it, right? But I remember first hearing about Undertale and playing the pacifist role, being able to go through the whole game without actually killing anything and stuff like that. And that there's achievements in various games for doing things like that you can legit play certain games without killing anyone. It's the one in WoW, right? The guy who went forever just leveling with herbalism and stuff like that, right? Yep. That they made a decision, which in my mind makes no damn sense other than, hey guys, check it out, I'm going to do this.
It's
right?
for the memes.
It's someone who's just like, you wouldn't believe what I'm going to do, and who does it. And that's cool. But it's interesting that people have been able to find ways to make their fun in the game differently. And that's why I'm very curious in the audience, right, of everyone who's watching. It's kind of like the ways they find themselves going into. And one of the questions I have as we get into our break here shortly is whether people out there who have been able to engage either through their own means of choosing their win condition or playing a character to the way they believe that character is meant to be played versus how they themselves would answer situations and deal with it. Do you get a different kind of satisfaction, experience, enriched whatever from going through it in those ways? Do you feel like you get to look at it and say, yeah, I did it in this way, or yeah, the story I got to experience was more meaningful because I really got that character to do what their story arc makes sense to do in my mind, right? That yes, everybody said in the game tells me you should not wow this or like woo this character. You should not go after this romantic interest in the game. But darn it, I believe this character would because of this. And
the Barrett date in Gold Saucer.
This is Final Fantasy VII.
When you
right?
have Final Fantasy VII, where you can take Eris on a date. You can take Tifa on a date. you can take Barrett on the date.
I do not remember.
It's hard. Like you have to be dedicated to doing that because it's all based on dialogue choices and a set of values that change based on your dialogue choices. But if you do the dialogue choices right, then yes, you can go on the date with Barrett. But let's be real. You only really want to go on the date with Tifa because she can suplex giant robots.
That is the number one most important trait in a woman, to be fair.
Yes.
I mean, or any sexual partner, really.
Yes, that's true. She could suplex giant robots.
Funny you mentioned Final Fantasy VII, because it's actually just been released, the remake has just been released on the PlayStation Store, and this month's free games for PlayStation Plus owners includes Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is currently retailed at £60 UK, which you get for free if you have PlayStation Plus. So wow. I now have my library, and I'm actually going to play it sometime in the next few months for the first time ever.
I played the demo. I thought it was pretty fun, but that was just me. I'm actually way more interested in that I just saw more announcements that it really, really, really looks possible that we're going to get more PlayStation exclusives to the PC like Ghost of Tsushima and others. And so I'm like, yes, and potentially God of War series and stuff.
That's kind of cool.
Like, hey, all those games I haven't played because they're console exclusive, bring them over so my master race can feel obliged now and I can play it on the massive, ridiculous hardware I have sitting here.
Right.
Like,
I'm less interested in Ghost of Tsushima than I used to be because I watched a review recently where it was largely compared to the Dark Souls and similar games, and I was like, I don't like to play games that are just sadist.
No, it's whoever made that comparison sucks at video games.
Okay.
I was gonna say I never heard that comparison, so that's an interesting one.
Dark Souls comparison is the Dark Souls of gaming journalism.
Yes.
Gotcha. Like the people I played as long as I could, I suck, and therefore I'm going to compare it to this thing.
You want to go? Cuphead is the Dark Souls of Cuphead. Says the guy who couldn't get through the tutorial.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Ken, it's nothing. It's nothing like Dark Souls. Nothing.
Okay.
It is awesome. One thing that I am going to spoiler this for you because I didn't know it and it may have changed the way that I played through the game, even though I could play through the game again if I really wanted to, because they made New Game Plus in a patch. So,
cool.
But the level of honor with which you fight will affect the weather.
Oh.
Yes, I've heard this. Yeah.
That's the spoiler. And
interesting.
I won't say anything more than that. It storms in my universe all the damn time.
You're backstabbing everyone then, is what you're saying.
There's an optimal means at which you
cut people's throats. I dove on them off the top of buildings. Yeah, I was not. There's no such thing in a fair fight when fighting for my island.
So you don't stay on guard first. You don't inform them that a fight is about to happen.
Fight me! No. Occasionally, because it just looks cool. Like the standoffs just look cool.
Cinematically that thing looks amazing. So I'm excited for more like PlayStation exclusive content to come to PC. So that's how I'll react to that. But as well because what was it? Is it the next chapter of Final Fantasy Remaster or whatever is only coming to PS5? I think. Really? Or something like that they stated. There was something about either an update or something with it is only hitting PS5, which is like, hey, great for the 10 people that have PS5s out there.
Well, and all the
Well,
people
you can start doing
scalping
stuff that's
PS5s.
PS5 exclusive because it's unnecessary right now.
I will continue. I've had several discussions recently about the state of console gaming and why I keep pushing for PC Master Race. And it's developed on PC. It should be playable on PC. Still sell on console, but artificially keeping it from PC is criminal in the sense that you're just limiting your sales.
What they've done for the entire history of gaming.
Yeah.
But it's becoming less and less so. And it more so, my whole rant is because I'm not going to buy a new console. There's no reason for me to. My Xbox One S will still play HD Blu-ray. So there's nothing hardware-wise I need that a new console can provide me. And my PC already does everything a console can do and more. And so there's nothing that would drive me to try to sit outside overnight and try to get hold of a next-gen console. It just makes no sense to me. And all the people say, but it's easier for this, easier for that. I have a PC behind my television. I can stream from my 3090 to the PC with almost no latency and play on a 65-inch OLED television as well using a PC. It doesn't require a console to do that. Yes, I've invested more money, and it's silly what I've invested compared to a console, but I don't need to buy a console because I already did that on PC.
Right.
So I have this whole rant about that. And so I'm annoyed constantly when people are like, well, no, they don't need to sell more consoles. They're taking a loss on the hardware. They make their money from the software. They would make more money from me by buying it on PC because I'm not taking away their console money.
Yeah, but when you are absolutely the minority.
The money is in the accessories.
But I still buy. No. I've got a Nintendo Pro controller here. I've got an Xbox One S controller for my PC right here.
You're the minority, Wayne.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in general. Like if somebody goes and buys a console, right? It only comes with one controller. So you have to buy another controller. Then you have to buy the charging station for the controllers. And that's where all the money is made.
Which I've had to do anyways on PC. So I'm just saying they wouldn't lose any money by selling to me on the PC. They'd make more because I would buy more of their games.
This is the identical argument to my Hearthstone rant last week. Right? If they made casual CCG variants, which every CCG would have, I would buy the cards.
Right, yes.
They would make money.
You would just make more money. That is my argument.
Yes.
So
yes,
I still disagree.
You'd have to.
Sorry, I know it benefits you and it's what you wish. It doesn't change the fact that they make more money from people buying consoles and sticking in their ecosystem and only buying their stuff.
The whole point is they would still make all of that console money if they release these games on PC. Because the people who can't afford it. Well, the people who can't afford a 3090 on their PC is already going to still buy the next console. So it's not taking away any of those sales. They're just expanding their audience massively.
You buy into the ecosystem and it's addictive till death do us part.
And I still know the people who PC game and buy all the consoles. So maybe that's their whole point, but that bothers me. Anyhow, that's my rant in 2 minutes, if you will. Wow. It is past due. We're going to give everybody a break here so that you can go refill your cups as needed or visit the washroom. I am going to play an RP-ish game, as we've talked about soundtrack here. So from Elder Scrolls vs. Skyrim, or Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, sorry, was it? Oh, I can't even say that. Devoken, or was it? Is it Devoken? Devoken. I don't know. Remix. And so that song. So put yourselves into the mind of your characters, and we'll play this during the break here. We'll be back right after this with some emails, both one about last week from Ionis, talking about early access, as well as one to get us back into the discussion today from Hando about RP. So we'll be back right after this, everybody, in about 4 minutes. You're watching ShowX here on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, wherever you might be. So we'll catch you after this. Bye, everybody.
BRB.
listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the conversation. It is email time. All right. So, to kick us off from previous week's discussion, our not quite wall of text today from Ionis, saying, to the early access, I grapple with thee. Man, I love the effort Ionis puts into his emails. All right, here we go. From the sandy salt mines of Polish pre-apocalyptic wasteland, I stab at thee. For hate's sake, I spit my last wall of text at thee. Early access games are a funny thing. On paper, I love the very concept of few people coming up with an idea and reaching out to the community to finance it. It stands in direct opposition to the, quote, play it safe big companies that wouldn't commit their resources to some new untested idea, not when they're vomit another carbon copy of the previous game with minor updates. On the other hand, early access games suffer, like any other projects, from the poor management. It's one thing to have 5 people on a project working on it in spare time, with all of their time in the world to test different solutions and ideas. It becomes something quite different when those 5 people sell 5 million copies of their early access game and suddenly are bombarded with expectations from people who finance them. Quote, can we get mounts? When will there be a PvP? Can you hire 20 more people and develop the game faster? Update when? LOL, devs. You can have the best group of developers under the sun working on a project, but without management that can utilize their skills correctly, you might as well have monkeys and typewriters. Whether you lead a 10-man raid or a 10,000-strong company, the principle of managing people is the same. Put the correct people in the correct places and don't let them eat yellow snow. Don't let tech guy do PR. Don't let PR guy come up with features. Don't let finance guy come up with deadlines, and don't let suspiciously cheap lemon snow cones anywhere near the company. I bought a bunch of early access games. Some of them seemed to have enough content to enjoy on purchase. Some felt more like long-term investment. Generally, however, it is prudent to look to or at a company's former projects. See how well they handle development of previous games. Having a reasonable roadmap goes a long way too. If it looks too good to be true, it probably isn't. Small steps, gradual improvement, logical progression. At the end of the day, early access is a way for many small developer studios to create games that otherwise wouldn't have had a chance to work on. And in my humble opinion, those companies are the avant-garde in the industry today, coming up with new ideas, new gaming experiences, and unique takes on old gameplay loops. They are willing to go where the AAA studios can't, quote, afford to venture. And we really can't put a price on their impact on the gaming industry as a whole. However, it is always a bit of a financial risk, and like any other gambling endeavor, you always have to consider the project failing and you never getting that homoerotic pony simulator you paid Diamond Hoof supporter tier money for. Those types of games will do worse than die. They will leave you, and as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in early access, buried alive.
Con, you bloodsucker.
Buried alive.
You're gonna have to do your own dirty work now. Do you understand me? Do you?
That was very well snuck in there.
Oh, perfect. No. Ionis puts so much effort into his emails. I quite appreciate them. He is phenomenal.
By the way, I got it at the Shakespeare quote, because that was also from Star Trek 2. Good job, Ionis.
Yes. No, it's, oh, man. Right there is that challenge. We had that whole talk about with early access last week, but yeah, the idea that, you know, you can support what you want. Know there's risk. Simple as that. Know there's risk. And
well, and crowdfunding fraud is a thing, right?
Yes,
I mean,
dude.
We don't call it fraud. You know,
I still reach out to some developers. I still reach out.
$65,000 in a crowdfunding campaign to do research.
Man,
and not doing research.
There are 3 pairs of shoes I am owed by a company that never got past the starting line, really. And they took my money, and they have yet to officially cancel the project. What, 6-7 years down the road now? And have not had an update in probably 3 years. And I send them every once in a while emails or something on their social media like, update please? Just, are you alive? Like, I have pretty much accepted that my money is gone. More than I'd like to admit.
Override network.
Yeah. Oh man, pissed. Like, if I can find those people, I will.
You should be. So what it helps is whatever enthusiast media that you're trying to rip people off from, it's good to have allies in that media.
Yes.
Oh, to help sell the message and stifle any realistic.
9.
Oh, that one was rough. Oh man. Anyhow, but to get us back on track, we have another email from our friend Hando, specifically titled RP. It says, "Hey X-Men, when it comes to RP, I highly recommend Mandalorian Farming Simulator. In it, I play a cloned Mandalorian that has apparently lost his memory and discovers that the galaxy has changed greatly from the days of Republic vs. Empire. The races are as diverse as ever, and there's no limit to the worlds that can be discovered. My Toon has vague memories of his past as a bounty hunter, but now just wants peace in his mind and life as he tends to his crops, makes friends with the wildlife, and explores the galaxy. Yes, Mandalorian Farming Simulator, also known as No Man's Sky. Your pal, Hando."
Mandalorian Farming Simulator. That's good. That's good. I like that.
That's very good.
Funny.
Oh, yes. So, prior to the break, as we continue to chat about how it is we play our video games and what it means to RP and get into it, like I said, I still haven't got over. Well, no one. I don't think I saw in the chat specifically if anyone said it there. It wasn't our emails about the kind of experience you guys all receive for those of you who really do throw yourselves into these different ways of playing. I guess I can reach to you, Todd, a little bit because you've talked about how in like Europa and stuff or different games when you've played a very specific role, or like you said, the Idiot Savant. From your experience playing those kind of specific roles in the game, do you feel a different kind or a more specific level of engagement, entertainment, something about playing it in that fashion compared to when you play it just no rules, no holds barred, however you would normally play?
It's fun to see the moment when it blows up, right? Like, and I'm not sure how to describe it. If you go back to Fallout 3, the reverse pickpocketing grenades character, like that character is pretty weak for the first, say, 8 levels.
Okay.
Right? But eventually, if you know where to go and you know, like, to pick up a couple of the right bobbleheads and stuff like that, right? To boost your stats a little here, boost your stats a little there, find a little gear. That's helpful. Usually with a lot of AR, and that is not heavy. So like light to medium armor, so that you don't lose the benefits of stealth or sneak. Once it blows up, it's a lot of fun.
Like once it literally blows up.
It was, yeah, in that case with that character, yes, literally blows up. It was really fun walking into the Republic of Dave and blowing up Dave and his wife while they were sleeping.
Just cook a grenade, sneak in, just like
snuck in after,
here's a grenade for you.
After dark. They're lying in bed. I'm in stealth. Like I'm gonna be able to. Like the first time they caught me when I tried to pickpocket it, so I walked out. They're like, "Oh, never mind. What was that noise?" And then went back to went back to sleep. So I tried again, and it's like, oh, I didn't get caught this time. Here, have a frag mine. And, yeah.
Does it always kill them if it's stealth? If it's in their inventory?
What's that?
Does it always kill them? Like, does it bypass armor resistance or anything?
I have no idea, but I'm maxing out explosive skill, and
well,
so
the question I'd have is, do you get the stealth bonus? Do you get a stealth bonus with it?
I don't think it qualifies as a sneak attack critical.
Okay.
But of all the things that you can pickpocket, right? So mostly humans, super mutants. When you can find one out in the world, most of the time, if you put a frag grenade on them, a live frag grenade on their body, it tends to kill them.
Okay.
Interesting thing about that, they will fly farther if you reverse pickpocket frag grenades on them than frag mines. If you put a frag mine on, reverse pickpocket a frag mine on them, they just pop up in the air a little bit. If you give them the full grenade, if you give them the grenade, they will go flying at some point. Like, the physics is just kind of weird. My guess is because they're at the epicenter of an explosion. And it's the physics engine, I think, just tosses them in a random direction. So
Nice.
That's both fun, but also incredibly inconvenient if you want to loot the corpse.
Occasionally inconvenient, yes.
It's the randomization of which pocket you put it in. Was it
But
front left, front right, back left, back right?
Yes. Which pocket? Chest pocket. Always chest pocket. Like, grenade right there. I have to say, the last time I did it, it was, I guess, more satisfying because one of the bobbleheads that you have to go get is in the Yaogwai cave in Fallout 3. And so you have to go into this cave that's filled with Yaogwai, which are not trivial necessarily, especially at that level and especially with that build. Like, if I was gonna build for straight min-max, where I would, start leveling up energy weapons, go through the main storyline quest till I got to Rivet City, and then do the A321 quest, or the Replicated Man quest. With the really good ending, so you get A321's plasma rifle. Like, if I were to do that, the Yaogwai cave would be trivial. Because you just plasma rifle bears in the face and then they die. But this one was a little bit different because it's just me with middling explosive skill, no gun skills per se, and a mediocre stealth skill in a cave with bears. And so I'm throwing grenades at bears, because what else are you going to do?
It's the only sensible course of action.
Only sensible course of action. Grenades and mines. Lots of grenades and mines. And, once I got done with that, I got the bobblehead, and I would say it was more satisfying. The Idiot Savant build, again, same thing, when it finally blew up, and that took a lot longer. That took a lot longer to blow up, but once it did, that was just as much fun in a different way.
Nice. No, but I like to hear that, right? Because one of the other challenges I've had, and I mentioned in the past other shows, is that, or just in chatting with people, is how I realize I rarely replay a game, right? I tend to play through a game once. I have lots of games on my list to play. My Steam list is longer than I think I'll ever get through in my foreseeable future. And so with that, it's like, I struggle to think of why once I've beat a game, I would go back and do it differently or do something else. And I've heard so many over the years, people talking about being able to play a game again from the evil side, from, a perspective where they're going to make this faction more so than that faction, or whatever the case might be, but they come up with reasons to play it differently than they did in the past.
Well,
and for me, that's almost never even a thought.
Fallout 4's got at least 3 endings.
Okay.
Right? If not more. And I'm probably because I'm only thinking off the top of my head. And there's the Brotherhood of Steel ending. There's the Institute ending. There's the Railroad ending. There's the Commonwealth ending. So 4. The Commonwealth Minutemen ending. So 4. There's 4 endings. And the storylines converge and overlap and stuff like that, but they are fundamentally different.
Okay. Well, and so with that, are you doing it then playing it those different ways to ensure you get to experience what that new ending is or that other way of playing or something like that?
Well, so for me, I don't know why this is, but Fallout's always been easier for me to avoid the one playthrough style.
Okay.
So I have never struggled with this time. I'm going to try I don't know. The Tinker, the Crafter build that I did on my last playthrough, where I took just enough stats to be able to get all the modify, or all the crafting skills.
Okay.
So, except for science, I think was the only one that I didn't take. So I could make my own armor. I could modify my guns, and
that's a really fun idea.
And enhance them. And so, yeah, it was just and I played through. That was also an excuse to play through the DLCs, Nuka World and Far Harbor. So I played through the DLCs as well, and it was just a way to do the content in a way that I hadn't done the content before. Contrast. The Mistress of Giggles doesn't like this about the Bethesda games, but I do. Like, as soon as you pop out of the tutorial, it's just like world, and you can go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I even tried
Skyrim start. Like, every time I play Skyrim, I actually install mods to Skyrim to remove the intro quest, so that I don't have to do it because it annoys me. I'm like, I just want to get into the game and play the game. I don't want to have to do this stupid, executioner in the prisoner car, all that crap.
That is one of the ones I installed pretty quick, because it also it was a barrier for me to play a game a second time with Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like,
Once you play the first time, you're like,
I've done this. I don't want to do this again. And so the few times I did try to change it, I love the mods that let you skip the intro and start in any city you wanted. Like, I loved those because then you could start a whole different city and basically create your own background. Oh, I was actually a beggar here, or I was actually this, instead of just the game. Because if you already beat the game, it makes sense to kind of tear it apart and do it differently. That's what I love about the freedom of mods and what it lets you do. So I was kind of curious, or at least the experience I've had where I've heard, seen, experienced descriptions of, but not really myself, that I'm still stuck in my way of living. And that is with my VR, the program out there that seems like it's rife with opportunity to roleplay, to take on roles, to do something different than your everyday life. Because it's interesting how so many people like to use gaming or interactions online as a way to represent themselves separate or different from what their daily lives are. It's a great potential for escapism, for living the better life than what you might have in your everyday thing, or just different enough that it becomes exciting for you. Well, in VR, one of the probably biggest places right now that, if people ever experience Second Life, or heck, it really goes all the way back to old IRCs and stuff like that of just chatting. But on virtual level, they have VR Chat, the virtual reality chat engine, where you get to show up at various areas that have been like environments that are created that people can create themselves and stuff like that, or your own home and stuff, invite people in to just sit down and chat. But part of the aspect of it is when you play VR Chat is how do you represent yourself? You're now in a 3D experience where people can see your avatar. And so they have some, like a generic computeristic, like nondescript avatar you start with, but there's a whole community out there who go and build avatars for people, or that have community free avatars you can join in and grab hold of. A lot come from popular media and things like that. However, one of the challenges I've run into personally is trying to find an avatar that I feel like represents me. Because I've seen and I've watched other YouTubers and stuff like that who go in there and talk about their experiences in VR, that they live in VR and do all this stuff all the time. And VR Chat's one of their places they meet up. And I've watched some of their videos, and they see people that go to every level, from be it favorite characters in a show to the one that kind of sticks in my mind, very specific interaction, is like the little, almost like you had said, Todd, about Final Fantasy, having like the waifu character, right? The really cute, if you will, anime chick looking avatar. And in the instance I watched, was a lot of it was grown men presenting themselves in those like as these little cute anime character type avatars. And one of the hosts I had seen who was showing his channel was talking to them about his experience and was saying, why do you choose to represent yourself like that? And the response that sticks in my head was one of these guys who got on, because you can voice chat in it, and was like, I live my day every day as this kind of guy working this kind of job, doing this kind of thing every day. And so the opportunity I have to come in here and present myself as this cute little whatever bubbly girl or whatever is just fun and relaxing and such a departure from my everyday life that it gives me a smile. And it was interesting to me because, again, that's something that I hear it, and I like to often talk about like my ways I view my own experience. My intellectual brain can rationalize and understand what the person has said. But like my being, my feelings, the side of that is me and how I doesn't understand it. That because I don't feel compelled to do similar. And
I want to try to explain it to you using a different medium.
Okay.
Okay. My favorite bad day movie when I was living in the States was Falling Down.
I actually figured that might be the one you brought up.
Yeah. It's my favorite bad day. It was my favorite bad day movie when I was living in the States. I was in the industry, like driving your car home, rush hour traffic at the end of this miserable day. Like if my car was not newish at the time, right? It was possible it could have broken down in the middle of traffic. Like you can see yourself in your mind's eye. Like it's a stretch because I'm not I wouldn't be the kind of person that would like kill people. But like if you tilt your head enough, right? Or tilt your mind's eye enough, you could sit back and go, "Oh, yeah, I could see, I could see myself as defense." Like I understood it, right? And so you could see yourself that way. I haven't watched Falling Down since I moved to Norway.
Okay.
That's a good thing to hear, actually, because that means that you've been happier, I think.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just Googled it. I remember this film. I've seen it as well. Great film.
I don't have bad days anymore.
That's
not
actually
like
huge.
That, not work-related bad days. Like everybody has bad days. That's whatever. No, my bad days now are like Joker. That's not real. That's not real. But like I could see myself in that. I could see myself in that as a departure from what the real world is like. Like if I just step back, if I suspend disbelief, like is it possible? Boy, if it was possible, wouldn't it feel good? Wouldn't it feel good to start in Aurora and walk a straight line all the way to Boulder, and just anybody who ran across you and tried to mess with you, you just beat them with a baseball bat or discharged a shotgun at them and induced them to have a heart attack? Like, wouldn't that be fun? And sure, in a visceral kind of way, yeah. Okay, so what did I do? Well, maybe I loaded up Doom, or maybe I loaded up Unreal Tournament, or maybe I went home and played some Tecmo Bowl or whatever, right? And you play as Houston, and you play against New England, and you win a game of Tecmo Bowl like 96-0. And just beating somebody down without actually beating somebody down.
Yeah, but that expression of like just emotion and feeling.
Yes, exactly. And so for these people, like if you feel the burden of responsibility every day, like in a 5-day week, let's just think about it in the context of 9 to 5, right?
Yep.
And you feel the burden of responsibility every day, and it gets to be 5 o'clock on Friday, and you can go someplace where you don't have to feel that burden of responsibility anymore, and you can do whatever you want to do. Why not dress up like a girl in a virtual space where nobody knows any better?
Yeah, for sure.
Why not?
No,
I'm not
that's
responsible for it. It's the purest form of escapism.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And I understand that to a degree, right? I do get that, and that's where it's like interesting for me because like as I'm running around playing virtual chat or in VR chat, I've spent all day this morning looking for an avatar that I would feel comfortable playing as. And it's been odd. One, and it's kind of like the previous discussion at the beginning of the show about finding the, character that can somewhat anything look kind of like you do. Let me just tell you that when you look at popular media for characters, good representation of black characters just is not prevalent, especially in animated form, since that's primarily what people translate to avatars. And so I'm fairly limited in what I can find. I found the one I was running with recently, but it was almost too much, was what's his name? From Teen Titans into DC Universe, was it Cyclops? I know
what you're talking about.
Yeah, his character that is like, they had a model that I was like, all right, Cyborg. Thank you, Leonovid. Cyborg. And I went and I did some searching this morning after being on VR chat, like, how the heck do I import my own avatar? Because I actually think what I'd do is go make some 3D object in Tilt Brush or something, the VR paint thing, and I'll make that myself. But I did find, because go figure, there's markets for it, an app, and this one is vrchat.readyplayer.me, and it allows you to link into your account. Hopefully I've done it all right, and one. And so the one I'll probably run is essentially this avatar that they were able to generate for me to throw in game, because for whatever reason, like for me, I still like, I am compelled to want to represent myself in some way. I don't know. Maybe it is a sign that I'm not trying to escape my regular life as much, or if I am, it's still like, well, it's still me, even though I want to do these things.
That's a really interesting point, though, Wayne. I've actually been watching with Kin Features. We've been watching some VR chat YouTube videos. I can't remember who it is. It's by Seymour, something like that, on YouTube. And basically what him and his friends do is they're quite famous actually now. They've got millions of hits on YouTube. They go around VR chat and they talk to people about random life stories. And they with permission, they record it and they put it online. And it's a lot of it's exactly that. It's the form of escapism. And some people have been discussing fascinating topics. Like some people have been talking about how they got beat by their parents. Other people got into the sex trades. There's one girl who was explaining how she got into being an OnlyFans girl and how much money she makes. And by the way, she makes a crap ton of money. She's like one of the top 0.01%. And she says she meets her clients through VR chat. And that's partly how she makes so much money, because they get to actually talk to her.
They have a personal interaction in a somewhat safe experience. Yeah,
exactly.
That's actually pretty brilliant on her part.
There's this other poor kid. There's this poor kid who had this horrible, really rare disease where basically if he touches anything at all, pretty much, his skin starts to slough off. And then it's incredibly painful. And there's like almost no pain medication helps. He's got like the maximum dosage of opioids he's allowed to have constantly. He's been allowed to start taking cannabis at the age of like 7 because it's the only thing that numbs the pain somewhat. But this poor kid, and he's talking about how he loves VR chat because he's started to lose his fingers from this disease, and it's one of the few ways he can interact with other people without having to like go out in the real world and damage himself.
Yeah, no, I mean that actually brilliant. Wow. Well, that talks about the power potentially, right, of VR and experiences, being able to fully, I mean, all the way down to not even just the VR chat and stuff like that, people that have had serious disabilities getting to experience the world in a way where nobody can judge. And that makes a ton of sense, right? I know the examples of people who have severe physical disabilities having custom controllers that allow them to game on par with anybody else. And so when they're in game, nobody thinks of them as being in any way disabled, handicapped, or otherwise lacking in anything. They just are performing based on their skill. And so people are able to respond, and they get notoriety for that, which is pretty flipping awesome, actually. And so I appreciate you guys bringing up the examples of things that really do highlight the benefit or value or power of a type of escapism, of being able to represent yourself in a way that isn't you.
Well, one thing that I was going to say a little bit earlier is, right, the escapism is an individual thing. Like, what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you.
Yeah.
So if you Falling Down may not be a good bad day movie for you. Maybe it's Mamma Mia. Maybe Mamma Mia is your bad day movie of choice. Maybe it's Devil Wears Prada. Maybe it's Tron, the original. Maybe it's The Black Hole. Maybe it's Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Or like you're saying, maybe it's a book or prose or something like that. Any way you can get kind of that interaction you need.
Could be poetry.
Yeah.
Could be music. I'm one of those people who uses music for working out and as distractions in limited cases, but not much else than that. Road trips, I guess.
Yeah, similar me.
Yeah. So I don't spend a lot of time listening to music. Music's not part of that for me. Audiobooks are. Right. So if I'm going to use something auditory to as a distraction or whatever, it's much more likely to be an audiobook than it is music.
Okay. Well, so when you bring that up, though, for us here, at least in this room, and for our audience, do you feel like games play some piece of that?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
I know, because for me,
Massively.
and it's funny, I know so many people who it struggles, right? Why I'm a gamer, right? Who I am as a gamer. I get home from work, like, okay, where you see me right now on screen is where I spend the majority of my time not at work.
You're here.
Is in this chair right here, right? It's why it is flaking. The fake leather is basically gone, and it's all like the actual fabric under it. I spend so many hours in this chair when I have this big, beautiful home with all these rooms and things to do. And yeah, do I go watch a movie sitting on my couch? I do. Do I cook in the kitchen, I go in the basement, do projects and stuff, but I spend so much time here on the computer doing various things, but gaming is a big part of it. I spend all in front of ridiculous screens, like in front of two 30-inch monitors and a third like 27-inch monitor or 24 something aside, like an Apple Cinema display and an HP ridiculous business 30-inch screen, doing work stuff. And yet I still feel compelled to come home and enjoy myself and relax in front of computer screens. And I know a ton of people who are like, I could not imagine. But for me, that's part of my escapism or my relaxation, or I don't know what to call it, but what makes my soul feel a little more pure and comfortable each day.
Everyone is allowed one primary hobby that they spend money on. Right?
Oh, not like 10?
No, not like, well, it depends on how much money you have.
Uh-oh.
Some of us have responsibilities. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We'll do the show about where all my my money back from my mortgage refi and my tax money just went.
I know. Well, so to be fair, I'm getting our bonuses are coming in at the end of the month. So, like, I'm not going to be exactly there, but I'm going to be kind of there. In any event, everybody's allowed to have one primary hobby that they spend money on. There was a period of time where I thought mine was going to be golf. Because, well, I was in Wisconsin. You could play golf for $10.
That is convenient.
I wasn't great, but it was a great way to spend 3-4 hours with a buddy.
Get some exercise, get outdoors, chat, have some food, some drinks. Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate golf.
I'm outside. I'm drinking beer. Walking. If you're walking, I mean, it's a reasonable golf course if you're playing 18 and walking it. That's like 6,000 yards, 6,500 yards to walk it all. So that's a lot, right? And then I moved to Colorado, and golf wasn't cheap anymore. So then golf wasn't going to be a hobby that I spent money on, and I started spending the money on video games. And it was.
I have a buddy back in Scotland who he when he got his promotion to lecturer, he decided, like, this was like 3 years after he got his PhD, which is really impressive, by the way. So he did great for himself. But once he got that promotion, he was like, you know what? I love golf, and right now I spend a ridiculous amount of money each month because I've never been able to afford a year's membership. So he went off and paid for the annual membership for a club. It was something ridiculous, like £2,000, right, for an annual membership. But then you get access as much as you want. You get all the drinks and all the food you want at the bars. It's members only areas, members only courses, etc. And you get you get the little, I don't even know what they're called, the cabbies, little vehicles that you drive around. You get free access to, well, free. You get access to those whenever you want. You get your own driving space. All this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, I go there every single weekend, even if it's raining, even if it's snowy. I have the best time every single weekend, and it is absolutely worth the money for me. And I'm like, I get that, man. That's your escapism. I totally get it. I don't get it for me. Like, I don't get it. Like, golf is boring as hell to me, but like, I get it. That mine is gaming, yours is golf. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So I get you, Todd.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. I mean, so we brought up golf, so I kind of got to talk about this. My parents live in the desert now, right? There are lots of in fact, they live in a complex with a golf course in it that has a relationship with other golf courses. You can, as a guest with the HOA that they live in, get a 1-month membership to the golf courses as a guest, right? Like a guest membership. That would be enough when we can travel again for me to get a set of clubs and like go knock the ball around. Like, I would suck. But still, God knows how many windows I'd smash.
I got a set of clubs in the garage right now. I can go out there and swing. Like, I tell people I bowl down the golf course, but yeah, I can play a hole.
About it. Exactly. Like, why not? Why not? If you spend $60 and you've got access to 3 different courses, and you probably have to rent the golf carts or whatever. But whatever. But if your tee fees or course fees are paid for as part of the green fees, that's what I was thinking of. If your green fees are paid for as a part of the membership, the cart itself isn't that bad. You're on these immaculately kept up.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how pretty golf courses usually are.
I could see myself dropping a couple of $100 on a bag and a set of clubs. Am I ever going to break 80? No. Like, am I going to shoot 8 on almost every hole? Yeah, probably.
I usually have to pick up before I'm allowed to put it in. Double par.
That's about it.
I got to keep this under 5 hours, guys.
That's about it. That's about it. Like, just letting everybody play through, and you're out there by yourself. Yeah, that's gonna be me. I don't care. I'd go outside in 105 degree Fahrenheit heat in the middle of the day with a sunblock on and a hat and whack the ball around. I absolutely would do that. If they would let me walk, I would walk it. Right?
So I always feel like if I was just a little bit better so I could do it faster.
Hey, I know, right? I know, right?
Too many best ball games because, oh yeah, I'm playing. But
yeah.
Hey, there's a thing where you see the people catching up to you in the backside and you're like,
okay.
We'll play best ball this hole.
We got 10 minutes to go. I'm telling a golf story. You did this way, and this is your fault. So when I lived in Wisconsin, I worked security at a Best Buy.
Cool.
Okay. And the honchos would come down from Minneapolis because that was Best Buy's headquarters. They would come down from Minneapolis once a year, and they would do this big match play tournament amongst the Best Buy people. So the executives would always be on the team, and they would win, and you would pay money, and you knew it was like a kickback to the general manager and his friends, right? Fine, whatever. But you'd show up with a bunch of booze in your bag and some cigars and whatever. And I'll tell you what, we started playing, and by hole 4, I came to the realization that I had to stop drinking because I was the only one sober enough to make shots.
Oh no!
And that was brutal. I seriously thought I was gonna die that day.
Oh no!
Because one of the people who didn't stop drinking on hole 7 decided to take the golf cart careening down a hill, and we had no idea what was at the bottom of it.
Oh jeez!
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yep.
As a skier, I know that feeling, and it's not a good one.
And let me tell you, I let out a shriek 4 octaves above where my voice normally is. Like I hit the John Stamos high F as we're going over this hill, and it was just like, well, I'm gonna hold on as best I can and hope. Luckily enough, there was a cart path from one of the other holes, so we almost landed on a cart going the opposite way, but missed just barely. Happily.
Jeez.
I don't know that I've ever been more scared in a moving vehicle in my life, and that includes the time I was in a delivery truck sliding backwards on the side of a cliff over the ocean.
Woo!
You've told that story before, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Oh man.
So anyway,
no, thank you for that.
My point to all that is that I don't necessarily do gaming as a hobby when I'm at my parents' place because my parents don't have any interest, right?
Yeah.
They're not. They listen to the show, which is great, but they themselves are not gamers. They don't have any particular interest in the games that I play. So if I'm gonna play serious video games when I'm in Vegas, like it's exclusionary towards them. On the other hand, if I decide to play a couple of rounds of golf, like my dad can come with for 18 holes and just sit in the cart. He doesn't want to play, but he could come with. My mom potentially could come with. It would be a couple hours of mother-son bonding time type stuff. And I'm in a position where I could, if I wanted to, drop some coin on not the best clubs, but good enough clubs.
Something functioning that you can swing around when needed.
Exactly. Something functional so I could go out and whack the ball around.
Yep. No, it makes sense. So no, I appreciate this because
get it where you can get it, dude.
Yeah, it's getting out there with everything
about escapism.
And how it draws to gaming as a whole, right? And you guys are helping me understand why people are sometimes invest themselves into the way they game differently than I. And how that expression of really going into something from the perspective of what a character may experience or what they themselves could do differently from their everyday lives can be appealing. Because for me, maybe it's a sign that in general terms, because I got my stuff I deal with, but I'm overall comfortable with where I'm at in life and the things I do, that for me, games are just kind of a slight extension into playing them and experiencing things that I may not actually be able to do in real life. It's the idea that I play a racing sim or a flight sim because right now I'm not allowed to go down to the airport and just jump in the cockpit and take off in a plane. I could do that, but I'm not really allowed.
That's not going to end well.
Yeah. And
so somebody would like to have a word with you at the end of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And, or race the super nice race car, or heaven forbid, go shoot a bunch of people in the face. Right? I generally don't do that in regular life. So, but it's for me very much putting myself into that experience And honestly, it's why VR has been such a neat thing for me, because that is me and kind of appealing in that extra sense. And so I do appreciate how people might enjoy it. I would love to hear more specific stories or examples from all of you guys out there watching this. If you catch us on YouTube or whatever, talk to us in the comments there. Or if you'd love to, email us in at VtWShowX@gmail.com and let us know, even if it's some like memories you've had of some great experiences of playing a game, not just from the game mechanic perspective, although if you do play it with that, just let me know. But also let us know if there is an experience you've had where you played really focusing on the character of the game, the role playing that you can do using a video game as the medium in which you're experiencing things from a different perspective than who it is you are in your everyday life. I would love to hear ways it's been impactful to you, or how it's changed or enhanced or whatever your experience in playing a game beyond just the mechanics of the game, just playing the game to win, but playing it in a way that made it more for you. I want to hear that. So please email us in, comment in the comments below, all of those things to kind of give us an idea of what it is you guys get out of role play in general, or getting more in depth with the story beyond just the mechanics. I'm really curious to hear more people's stories beyond ours.
Because I also feel like we've barely scratched the surface on this topic today, because I think I actually thought this would be a tough topic to cover, but I really think we've barely even touched it, to be honest. I mean, I think there's a whole slew, like how you play a game depends on the genre of the game. It depends on what kind of game you're playing. It depends if it's multiplayer or single player. I think the idea of role playing with other people versus role playing in your own mind is a completely different thing. I don't think I've ever role played with somebody else. I've never done that. I've never experienced that. I'd be up for doing it with like D&D and Pathfinder and stuff, but even then, when I played Pathfinder in the past, it was more like it was entirely out of game. Like we played, but we didn't ever role play, right? Our characters did stuff, but we never like took their voice and became their voice. We never became that character, right? So that's something I'd love to experience and to try and enjoy. I don't think I would enjoy that in a game like, say, World of Warcraft, though, because for me, a game like WoW is all about objectives and collecting stuff, and like I don't actually see myself as an orcish warrior walking around and doing orcish warrior things and going to the bathroom or something. I don't know. I don't do that. I'm not into that. I don't find that fun. I can kind of feel it a little bit when I'm like doing quests and chasing down bad guys and delivering righteous fury upon somebody I want to smite. That like, yeah, I kind of get into it then, but I'm not even vaguely interested in the verbal aspect of it. Right? I'm interested in the actions that he might partake in, but that's it, or she.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, like I said, I agree. I think this is a bigger subject than we've really delved into.
We barely touched the surface.
And I'm having hints in my mind about places I've seen or witnessed others doing it to degrees. And because, like you said, even there, the level of like how a person tells the story in their own mind beyond what is presented on screen. And I hear about it all the time, and the people having conversations beyond the game about, ooh, but I imagine this. And you get terms like headcanon and fanfic and other stuff where people take stories beyond what's presented just in the IP of the game or the story or the show or whatever. That there are a lot of people who go so deep into whatever it is because they enjoy it, it extends beyond what someone else might experience unless they come along for the ride or get to hear the details in their own head. And so I imagine that with the creativity of the group that watches our show, there have to be examples you've had of things you've done out there that really went further than what just was presented on screen. And I'd like to know about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna, before we sort of close down the show, anybody listening to this now or in the future, please send an email to the show if you would like to be involved in a World of Warcraft classic dungeon running team headed by Ionis and yours truly. We're going to get that up and running in not too long a time once I figure out how to actually do it through Battle.net, because that has not been self-evident. But once I've got a once I've got access to WoW Classic on the EU servers, we're gonna pick one that will be PvE because I don't do that gank stuff, and we're gonna basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna start and do all the 5-mans, and hopefully in such a way that we'll be ready to hit TBC when TBC hits, so we can do all the 5-mans in TBC too. So,
cool.
Please send an email to the show if you are interested, so that we can get a head count. It would be kind of cool if we could keep it in community, but it obviously doesn't have to be that way. So,
I also just there's one thing you missed out, and you said it earlier, but you didn't say it this time. EU only, EU side, right?
Yes, EU side.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right, with that, Ken, would you give us the honor of letting us out this week?
Take us home.
You have been listening, watching, and enjoying ShowX here on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate it. We love having you guys here. Thank you so much for giving us your attention for 2 freaking hours. That's a long chunk of time for you to hang out with us. We appreciate that. We like hanging out with you guys. We like our little community here. We love seeing you in chat. We love having you guys here. You can help and support us in a huge variety of ways. All of which can be found in one easy link. I dropped it in the chat a bunch of times. You can see if you scroll up a little bit. It's linktr.ee/showx. There you can find our Facebook, our Instagram, our Reddit. You can find us all over the interwebs. You can also find a donate button there. You can also find our Patreon and all that stuff. So if you want to support us just with likes and subscribes, that's the #1 most useful thing you can do, is sharing us to people online. That's the easiest thing to do. Even if you watch the Twitch stream, if you like us on YouTube, that's a big help. We really appreciate that. It takes you 2 seconds, and we'd really appreciate it. You can also retweet us on Twitter and all that stuff. That's the #1 thing you do. Secondly, if you can also donate, if you are capable, that'd be also super helpful. It helps us afford things like microphones, cameras, hardware and software, all that stuff to keep the show running in a nice, clean format and keep Todd furnished with foam weapons. No, wait, scratch that last one. He's already furnished with foam weapons.
Yes.
Thank you for all your support. Very much appreciate it. Wayne, thank you so much for hosting and all the effort you do every single week. We really, really do appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for being here, Todd, with your handsome good looks.
All right, everybody. With that, we're going to run out of here. Just let us all win very
/salute.
And we will catch you again next week, everybody. Bye.
Bye. See you next zombie. Good night.